Whoa, the monitor's gone. Oh, yeah, that's because it died. Bye-bye, monitor. Oh well, we never really needed to display my logo all the time. You know which channel you're watching. And if you didn't realize which channel you're watching, well, continue watching at least. So this is going to be an explanation video behind one of the reasons why I chose something. So I've mentioned a couple videos before that I'm choosing to go electric because you can go ahead and watch those videos. I'm tired of constantly having to repeat myself. Links in the description if you want to check those out. But basically, when I mentioned I'm going to go electric, I also spec'd out a car as of which electric car would I go for, and well, I spec'd out basically a Model 3 that's, well, kind of expensive. In fact, in today's pricing now, back when I spec'd it, it was just under $60,000. It's now $62,000 if I spec it today. So why am I choosing a car this expensive when I basically don't even have a budget for one at this point? Well, the sad truth is I'm going to start explaining right now, actually. Okay, so yes, I know this Tesla that I'm trying to save up for is expensive. It's $60,000. It's over $60,000, and that's even before taxes, for crying out loud. So why am I trying to save money for something that is clearly a long ways away? And yes, I know, it seems like an impossible goal. I have no idea how in the world I'll ever be able to reach that, but it's just something that I want to get down the pipeline once the opportunity becomes available. But why am I spending that much money on a car when, I mean, there's other electric options? I just made a video about different electric car options that are much more affordable compared to Tesla. I mentioned in the past a lot of it has to do with the charging network, but I mean, that's kind of half of what we're going to get into today. So first of all, I live not just in Michigan, because you might think, okay, yeah, Michigan, well, it's a fairly populated state, especially, I mean, look, the Detroit area, Lansing, I mean, even the upper parts of the mitten. Well, slight problem. I don't live in the mitten of Michigan. I live in the peninsula above that. I'm north of the Mackinac Bridge, not south. And everything north of the Mackinac Bridge that is specifically not a Tesla network, oh, it's sheer garbage, I'm telling you. I'm going to dive into my opinions and things that I've learned about CCS. Take some of what I'm talking about with a grain of salt because I'm not an expert in this regard. I don't watch that many videos about the CCS network. But to my knowledge, if I were to get a car and road trip it per se, then so far my only option that I can sort of count on, and it's because even this network has some issues that really sway my trust a bit, is Electrify America. Electrify America seems to be the only CCS network that I've researched and seem to be able to trust the most, but even then, even Electrify America isn't my favorite network of all charging networks. So if I were ever to do a road trip in a CCS car, then I need to have Electrify America charging stations. If you take a look at the map of the UP, they don't exist. There's not a single Electrify America station up here. Pretty much the only charging stations that actually support CCS, like non-Teslas, is ChargePoint, except I have heard not really the most stellar reviews about them. That, and I hear that they're not very fast. Yeah, I'm not particularly impressed. So the CCS network, at least in my area, just isn't good enough to actually road trip these types of cars. Now sure, if I were city driving it, daily driving it for the city only, then sure, I wouldn't really mind saving some money on, if I had to go for a non-Tesla today, I personally would pick the Chevy Bolt, but I would have to make that decision based on the fact that I am basically not going to be road tripping at all because, well, the Bolt is the least expensive electric car that I can think of at the moment. I'm sure there's cheaper, but the Bolt's the cheapest I can think of right now. But also the Bolt has a decent range. It's got a decent range, especially for the city driving. And if you do want to make a long distance road trip, as long as it's within your range, then basically you shouldn't really have any problem making a road trip. You just got to make sure it's within the Bolt's slightly over 200 miles. I think it's like 250 or something. So as long as you do that, it's fine. Except slight problem. None of my destinations are within the range of a Bolt. It's pointless. So that is why I have basically thrown out every single non-Tesla. I have to go Tesla, and that's because the charging network up here, it sucks. It's not good enough. And all these charge point stations, I'm sorry, I've heard not the best best reviews of them. They're not even the fastest. Like, they don't even hit above 100 kilowatts to my knowledge. And so because of that, I can't choose a CCS car. That basically means I have to go for Tesla no matter what. And that's just the area I live in. I'm forced to basically buy a Tesla. So, okay, there's other ways you can possibly save money on a Tesla. Like, why am I spending $60,000 other than, okay, I put some options on my car, but I'll explain those in just a second. Why am I spending almost $60,000 just for a starting price with the long range? Because I basically ordered the long range. Why am I choosing the long range option instead of the standard range? Because I've checked Tesla's route planner for all of the standard trips that I take all the time. And I've even checked other planners like a Better Route Planner. And also I did some quick Google Maps and Apple Maps to figure this out. And yeah, I can make these road trips in a standard range Tesla just fine. I actually can. There is enough range to make the road trips. But there's a really big asterisk to me making those road trips. Is it possible to do it in a standard range Tesla where I live? Yes. However, it's under a specific condition, and this condition can only be met 50% of the year. Temperatures. Temperatures heavily affect the range of an electric car. It heavily impacts the batteries, and like I mentioned, I'm not south of the Mackinac Bridge in like everyone expects. I'm above it. I'm in the UP. So because of that, being close to Lake Superior and all that, it gets freaking cold up here. Like, it's not abnormal to be below 0 degrees in the winter. So because of that, the range on basically every Tesla up here, that's why there's so few of them. There's only 2 I've actually seen that live here. The range gets cut in half because not only is the battery limited because, well, it's gotta try to warm up because it's so freaking cold, but also you're running the heater in your car, the battery's trying to heat itself, then there's the slippery traction because, at least where I live, the roads basically are non-existent in the winter, and it's because they're all covered in snow and ice. So because of that, I have to get as much range as I possibly can. The standard range Tesla Model 3 has around 260 miles of range, which actually is enough for me to make all of my road trips. Some road trips I do have to stop and charge, but actually to my surprise, I've looked at the map, the supercharging infrastructure. Every single supercharger in the UP is a V3 250 kilowatt supercharger. That's cool. I'm really impressed with that. So because of that, I feel comfortable making any road trip. However, the problem is in the winter, that becomes more of a challenge. So my 260 mile range in the winter basically becomes cut in half to 130 miles. That's not good. Now, if I were to go downstate, because that is a road trip I actually take, my family has a lake house that we'll go to. So if we ever want to go down to that place in the winter, that's going to be a huge challenge. And here's the reason why. I can make it from home here at 100% to my first supercharging stop in Marquette. But once we leave Marquette, that is where the challenge comes. That stretch is really pushing it, especially in the winter, because it's over 130 miles. So in order to make that, I have to drive slow so the car doesn't consume as much power. So we're going to spend a longer time traveling through that stretch compared to normal. We also have to have the heater shut off, so we're going to be freezing cold inside the car. That stretch is basically impossible with a standard range Model 3 in the winter. I can't do it. That is why I have to spend the extra money to go for the long range. And honestly, I would have preferred to go with the standard range because, I mean, in the summer, I can make these trips just fine. Like, there's no problem at all. Except in the winter, there is a problem. And that trip, like I just mentioned, from my house here in the UP all the way to, well, the lake house in Lower Michigan, even in a long-range Tesla, we actually have to take a different route to actually make the trip there. We actually have to reroute from, instead of going to Marquette, we're actually going to have to go to Escanaba for a supercharging stop, which, thank goodness, it's a V3 supercharger, and then go from Escanaba straight to Mackinac City, because by then we're basically going to be at the very low percentage. But at least we can make that trip driving normal speeds and also having the heater of the car on. But this is in a long-range Model 3, and we, like I mentioned, we have to change routes to actually take more miles just to make this trip in the winter. So that is why I have to pay this much money for a Tesla Tesla. Now you could say, why not just get a car for 100% of your city driving, and then when you take a road trip, use Redbox, because you mentioned before, you're going to keep Redbox and such. Yeah, it's just, gas is expensive right now, and I'm going to end up paying hundreds of dollars on a trip if I want to go on a trip, and I just don't want to pay hundreds of dollars in terms of gas and such. I'd rather save money by taking my electric car anyways. I basically only take Redbox if I need to use my sixth seat at this point, because once I actually get this Tesla, assuming that gas prices stay the way they currently are today, it's basically going to make much more economical sense for me to drive my Tesla everywhere compared to Redbox, and only take Redbox basically if I need my sixth seat. Because yeah, believe it or not, Redbox is a 6-seater sedan, not a 5-seater like most people would think. And then why is my specific spec actually at like $62,000? It's because, well, if I'm going to spend this much money anyways, I might as well personalize it to things that I like. And in this case, it was the blue paint color, because not only am I getting the blue paint color because I hate neutral colors in general, but it's actually because in the winter, white is not a good color for a car up here. I mentioned that the color of your car actually can affect visibility towards others. And up here in the winter, oh, you might not want to drive a white car if at all possible. And then the other option, Midnight Silver Metallic. I already see a Midnight Silver Metallic Model Y, and honestly, I don't like that color. I hate neutral colors. It's boring. So yeah, I'm paying an extra $1,000 for the blue paint, and then also an extra, I think it's $1,500 for the wheel option, and then another $1,000 for the white interior, because I'm sorry, the black interior is just way too boring, even though I really wish they would put that wood trim piece in the white interior. So basically, I've been able to justify those costs by, well, basically just saying, I'm spending this much money on a car anyways, might as well go the extra mile and personalize it to something that I can live with a little better. That is why my electric car is going to cost as much as it does. It's because I can't use a CCS car. I can use it for city driving only, but like I mentioned, that's city driving only. If I ever want to do road trips, which honestly I do, I hate staying in one place. The area I live in is basically boring. There's nothing to do. I need to get out and go. Because of that, I can't consider, well, non-Teslas, and I have to go for the long-range Tesla because the winters up here get so cold, I basically won't be able to go anywhere without the long range. That's the situation I'm in, and that's why I gotta spend now $62,000 on my Tesla. Oh, Tesla, please don't raise the prices. I just want to get a car. So if you're saving up for an electric car, I do strongly recommend you do check out the competition rather than spend the type of money that I'm spending. I'm kind of forced in the situation that I am, but if you're not forced into the situation like I am in terms of purchasing an electric car, then please expand on those options. If you live further south where it's much warmer compared to where I live, you can probably tolerate the slightly shorter ranges. That, and maybe you'll have much better access to Electrify America chargers compared to the dumb charge point chargers we have up here. It's so bad. If you have these options available to you, please take advantage of it. I strongly encourage you to do it. And if I did have those options, I would totally take advantage of it. Except I can't, because screw me, because this is where I live. Alright, thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. My name is Alpha J Wolf, Random Alpha, signing out.